Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're diving into Heroes of Sepia, a brand new game with 44 amazing heroes, each with their own unique traits and abilities. If you're gearing up for your journey in Sepia, you're in the right place because we're going to break down which heroes truly stand out. The thing is, these heroes aren't just about individual power, they've got personal synergies that can make or break your team. So, if you want to put together a squad that can dominate, you'll need to know which heroes to prioritize and how they work together. In this video, I'll walk you through the Enigma of Sepia tier list, ranking all the heroes from strongest to weakest. Whether you're looking to build a team based on raw strength or leaning into synergies, this list has you covered. So get comfy, grab a snack, and let's see which heroes are worth your time and which ones might need a little more work to shine. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking heroes in Heroes of Sepia. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
My friends, only 0.1% of viewers subscribe. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support.
The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Little Sai, Lyra, Royale, Livia, Urena, Cheshire, and Mirage. Alright, let's talk about the heroes in the D tier of Enigma of Sepia, the ones you'll probably want to bench pretty early on. These units are like the training wheels of the game. Sure, they have their place at the start, but you'll quickly find yourself looking for something with a little more oomph. So, let's dive in and see who's hanging out in this tier. First up, we have Little Sai. Now, Sai might be the strongest early game unit with that teleportation skill, making him super useful for getting around quickly and dealing some basic AoE damage. But as good as he is in the first few rounds, trust me, you're going to want to swap him out once you unlock more powerful units. He's not the long-term solution. Next, let's talk about Lyra. Now, Lyra is a solid pick for negating damage and countering attacks, but that's about where her usefulness ends. She's not going to carry you into the later stages of the game. If you're not careful, her abilities can feel like they're just there to keep you afloat, but nothing groundbreaking. She's a good filler unit, but she won't do much when it comes to crushing tougher foes. Now, we have Royale. She's got some AoE skills and can curse enemies, which can be nice, but here's the kicker. She only really shines under special conditions when she's able to penetrate enemy armor. That means most of the time, she's kinda meh. If you're looking for someone to take down heavy hitters, there are definitely better options out there. Keep Royale around for the early game, but don't get too attached. Then there's Livia, a support unit who increases rage skill. Now rage can be useful, but Livia herself is kinda underwhelming when it comes to actual damage or utility. She's also pretty fast at debuffing enemies early on, but as soon as you move past the basics, she's gonna fall behind. Nice for starting out, but that's about it. Urena is another tanky unit, and she does bring that taunt ability to the table. The thing with Urena is that she's great at getting the attention of enemies and soaking up some damage, but when it comes to taking down big threats or dealing a lot of damage, she's not gonna do it. She's a good temporary solution if you need someone to hold the line early, but she'll need to be replaced if you want to keep pushing forward. Next up, Cheshire. Now, this one's interesting because Cheshire is useful for debuffing enemies and dealing with electrified ones, but outside of that, there's not much to write home about. She's more of a niche pick in the early game, and unless you really need her for those specific debuffs, you're gonna find yourself replacing her with stronger units as soon as you can. And finally, we have Mirage. The weakest AoE damage dealer in the game. I mean, she can deal a little bit of damage, and she does have some buff skills for the early game, but let's be real, her power doesn't hold up long term. If you're hoping for a hero who can dish out some solid AoE damage, you're definitely going to want to look elsewhere once you get further into the game. So there you have it. The D tier heroes of Enigma of Sepia, the ones you'll probably be saying goodbye to pretty quickly. They all have their place in the early game, but once you start getting the good stuff, you'll find that they just can't keep up. Keep them around for now, but don't get too comfortable. The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Janara, Eldwin, Sylvia, Dr. Lorena, Ayame, Eliza Thorne, Aurora, and Altheria. Alright, let's get into it. So, you know when you try to build the perfect team but end up with a few heroes who just aren't cutting it? That's what we're diving into today. We're talking about the C tier heroes in Enigma of Sepia, the ones that can be a little lackluster. They're not the worst, but they certainly won't be the ones to carry your team to victory. Let's break it down. First up, we have Janara. She's got a pretty cool trick up her sleeve with her instant debuff and curse effects. But here's the kicker. She's really only good against enemies who've got critique, entangled, or destiny effects on them. If you're not up against one of those, she's probably just there to look pretty. Her performance in most situations is pretty meh. Next, we've got Eldwin. He's a decent puncher, but here's where things get tricky. His power really depends on his HP being low. If Eldwin's not sitting at under 20% HP, you won't see his damage output really take off. Talk about playing with fire, right? He's a bit of a gamble that, honestly, doesn't always pay off. Sylvia, on the other hand, is a subpar slayer with bleed effects. Now, she can instantly kill enemies, but don't get too excited. This only happens if they're already below 25-30% of their HP, so unless you've already done some serious damage to the enemy, Sylvia's not going to be the hero to save the day. Dr. Lorena is up next, and she's another one of those only useful in very specific situations characters. As a healer, she's not really impressive, but she does synergize with Nova for extra damage, so that's a little perk. She only heals all allies when they're under 20% HP, so you've got to be on the edge of defeat to see her shine, and that's not ideal. Then there's Ayame. She's a low damage AoE dealer, and while she does have curse capabilities, she relies on wave stacks to boost her damage. If you're not able to stack those waves up, Ayame doesn't exactly do much. It's like waiting for a storm that never hits. Her potential is there, but it's a lot of waiting. Eliza Thorne is very similar to Ayame in that she's also a low damage AoE dealer with curse capabilities. Her one saving grace is the ability to instantly kill enemies when they're under 30% HP, but that's another situation where you need the enemy to be weakened before Eliza can do anything impressive. It's kind of like waiting for the perfect moment, but that moment might never come. Aurora too falls into the same category. She's another AoE dealer who can curse enemies and has that potential to instantly kill enemies under 30% HP. But again, it's that same frustrating situation. If the enemies aren't weakened, you're just left with a bunch of curse effects that don't do much for you. And last, we've got Alfiria. This hero's a healer, but let's just say she's the weakest one in the game. She does carry a shield, which is nice, but her real claim to fame is that she can penetrate enemy armor under special conditions. So, she's not totally useless, but she's definitely not going to be the first healer you grab for your team. So, there you have it. These C-tier heroes from Enigma of Sepia have their niches, but unfortunately, they often fall short when it comes to actually making an impact. They can have their moments, sure, but overall, they need a little extra help to really shine. Hopefully, this helps you figure out who to avoid when building your team. The heroes in this tier are in order from top left to bottom right. Nora Zorana, Crimson, Tiersinid, Sidneys, Ivy Lynn, Kaelestis, Bipolaris, Mentora, and Scientia. Alright, let's dive into the B tier heroes of Enigma of Sepia. These aren't quite the game changers like our top tier champs, but trust me, they've got some serious potential if used correctly. They're the kind of units that might not shine alone, but when paired with the right crew, they can really make things happen. So let's break down each one and see how they stack up. First up, we have Nora Zorana, your reliable debuffer. She's not going to blow you away with insane damage, but her AoE skills can be pretty handy for controlling the battlefield. What makes her shine though is her synergy with the Nova unit. If enemies are debuffed, she's able to increase the damage healing conversion ratio, which can give your team a nice little boost. Not bad for a B tier hero, right? Then we have Crimson, a bit of a wild card. This one's all about curses, baby. She's got leech skills that apply curse effects, and on top of that, she gains stacks of slaughter aura. She's best used against protocol enemies, so if you're facing them, Crimson will be your go-to. Keep an eye on her stacks, because when she gets going, she can be a pretty serious threat. Moving on to Denise, a solid choice for controlling the battlefield with electricity. She's got some decent debuffing abilities and the ability to inflict Chainsaw Storm on electrified enemies. The best part, she synergizes beautifully with Giselle, so if you've got them both on the team, they'll be able to wreak some serious havoc. Think of Denise as the spark that ignites your team's potential. Ivy Lynn brings some versatility to the table. She's a healer, sure, but she's not just standing in the back healing wounds. She also has crowd control capabilities, and when she triggers her combo technique, she increases her own anger intensity, which can turn her into a powerhouse. Plus, she gives Sepia's healing a nice boost for every stack of fate she has, making her an excellent support choice for any team in need of a little extra healing power. Next up, Kaelestis, the tanky defender. If you need someone who can soak up damage, Kaelestis is your hero. With high damage resistance, she's tough to take down, and she has a 100% chance to gain Rage Addict when facing exposed enemies. If you pair her with Ayame, you'll see some solid synergy that can keep your team in fighting shape for much longer. Bipolaris is another debuffer who can really cause problems for your enemies. She applies curses and inflicts Hermes Seed and severe wound on foes, which makes her an excellent choice against protocol enemies. If you're up against that particular enemy type, Bipolaris will help you get the upper hand with her debilitating effects. Keep her around for a steady stream of debuffs that can really turn the tide in your favor. Mentora is our healer with a twist. Not only does she heal, but she also has shield abilities, which can keep your team safe from some of the tougher hits. Her ability to heal the free allies with the lowest HP can be a game changer in clutch situations. If you're running Urena, her synergy with Mentora is excellent, so make sure you pair them up for maximum efficiency. Last but not least, we have Scientia, another fantastic healer, but with a little more crowd control spice to her kit. Like Ivy Lynn, she increases anger intensity after triggering her combo technique, and she also boosts Sepia's healing effects for every fate stack she has. With that extra healing power and crowd control, she can definitely help turn the tide in longer, more challenging fights. So there you have it. These B-tier heroes might not have the raw power of the S-tier units, but with the right team composition and synergy, they can be incredibly useful. They're the unsung heroes that, if played right, can really make a difference in your matches. Don't sleep on them, folks. The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Aquacera, Celestia, Giselle, Morgana, Sandra, Alicia, Sylphira, and Naldra. Alright, let's dive into the world of Enigma of Sepia and talk about some of the top tier heroes that really shine in battle. These aren't your typical heroes that need some kind of crazy setup to be effective. Nope. These guys do their job well with very few conditions, which makes them super reliable in your party. Of course, teaming them up with the right partners can take them from great to legendary, but we'll get into that later. First up, let's talk about Aquacera. If you're looking for a buffer who can do more than just sit there and look pretty, Aquacera is your go-to. Not only does she buff your team, but she also brings some solid AoE action to the table. Her ability to apply idle speed on enemies with 3 stacks of wave makes her even more dangerous. And hey, every time an enemy is vanquished, she gains 5 stacks of wave. That's some serious value right there. Next is Celestia, who's all about buffing your team, but with a little twist. She's got a knack for landing critical hits, and when she does, she boosts your chances to apply banishment. Oh, and if an enemy's hanging on with less than 25% HP, well, Celestia has the perfect finishing move for that. She'll wipe them out in an instant. It's like having your own personal assassin who also supports the team. Then there's Giselle, and oh boy, she's a game changer. Not only does she bring the heat with her transformation abilities, but when paired with Morgana, she becomes an absolute powerhouse. Together, they're unstoppable. Oh, and did I mention she grants 5 extra stacks of magical circuit? Yeah, that's a pretty sweet bonus for the team. Speaking of Morgana, let's give a shout out to this amazing buffer. Morgana is one of the best supporters you can have in the game. She's got all the right tools to enhance your party's performance. With her ability to delay enemy attacks, she gives you that extra edge in the heat of battle. Plus, just like Giselle, she gets an additional 5 stacks of magical circuit, which makes her an even more valuable asset. Now let's talk about Sandra, the healer you'll want by your side in every fight. She's easily one of the best healers in the game, and here's why. She'll automatically heal your allies when their HP drops below 20%. But that's not all. Sandra also applies 3 stacks of regeneration to all allies with rubber rebound. With her around, you can rest easy knowing your team will stay in the fight longer. Alicia is another hero worth mentioning, and she's got some serious debuffing power. Her AoE abilities can really shake up the enemy, and if you're facing electrified enemies, the chance to summon Twirling Orb adds another layer of chaos. Oh, and if you want to up the pain level, Alicia also applies an extra stack of burn to 3 random targets. She's great at keeping the enemy on their toes. Last but certainly not least, we've got Sylphira, who excels as a combo buffer with some control abilities to boot. She can apply an extra stack of burn to random enemies, which is always fun to watch. But the real kicker is when she uses her ultimate. If an enemy is taken out with the wrath of the Storm God, she'll apply a stack of Crow. It's a nifty little ability that adds even more punch to her kit. So there you have it. These heroes are all about minimal conditions for maximum effectiveness. While pairing them with their synergistic partners can push their power even further, they can absolutely hold their own in battle. Whether you're looking for buffers, healers, or debuffers, this crew has got your back. And hey, if you're lucky enough to get them, you're in for one epic ride. The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Vespera, Yukari, Erenor, Nova, Little Rasi, Lena Frost, Eclipsia, Lumina, and Carmilla. Alright, folks, if you're looking to up your game and stack some serious firepower in Enigma of Sepia, we're diving into the S tier heroes. These units may not break the game like the true powerhouses at the top, but trust me, they've got some serious skills and can hit hard when needed. You'll want them in your lineup, no doubt. Let's start with Vespera. This lady is a beast when it comes to AoE damage and purifying enemies. You throw her into the mix, and not only is she gonna dish out some solid damage, but she'll also apply severe wound to enemies under Transcendence. Oh, and her chance to instantly wipe out enemies? Yeah, it's up there. If you like making things go boom, Vespera is your go-to. Next up is Yukari. Now, don't let the control-heavy mechanics fool you. She's a powerhouse in disguise. Her main strength? 100% taunt success against despair targets, making her an absolute nightmare to deal with. Plus, she's got a little something extra up her sleeve with that fire curse ability that she'll randomly slap onto an unlucky target. She's all about turning the tide of battle with her tactical prowess. Then there's Erenor, and let me tell you, this guy is the real deal. As the best line unit and debuffer in the game, he doesn't mess around. Every time he takes down an enemy, he stacks up Wave, which gives him an even better chance of causing chaos. And for the cherry on top, he applies extra Vanquish stacks to enemies he entangles. If you need someone to disrupt the enemy's plans, Erenor's your guy. On the AoE damage front, Nova is an absolute must-have. With her thump mechanic, she's got a serious punch and can wreak havoc on enemies in her path. Not to mention, she boosts the chances of applying severe wound, which can really make a difference in those long battles. And if you've got Carmilla on your team, she gains free blood rage, so that's even more damage and more fun. Speaking of Carmilla, don't forget about Little Rasi. She's pretty much Nova's twin in action. Also rocking the thump mechanic and increasing the chances of applying severe wound, she's a solid AoE damage dealer that pairs up perfectly with Carmilla. Blood Rage? You bet she gets a free dose of it when she's with her, making her a force to be reckoned with. Let's not leave out Lena Frost. This line unit's got a whole toolbox of debuffs that will have your enemies begging for mercy. She applies Soul Slash to enemies under critique, and her energy consumption manipulation can have a massive impact on the flow of the game. If you want someone who can mess with both the enemy and the battle system, Lena's your go-to gal. Eclipsia is here to wreck with her Crow mechanic, and let me tell you, she's got some serious AoE potential. Every time she scores a kill, she's stacking Crow on every enemy in sight. And for those electrified enemies, yeah, 3 stacks of Crow just for them. If you love stacking buffs on enemies and watching them crumble, Eclipsia's gonna be your new best friend. Finally, we've got Lumina, who takes AoE counterattacking to the next level. Not only does she dish out damage like a pro, but she also boosts her own blood rage stacks if the target's unscathed. She even increases the chance to inflict Hermeseed under blood rage, which, as you can imagine, isn't something you want to be on the receiving end of. And if you've got enemies stuck in time stop, she completely negates the blood rage cost, making her even more dangerous. So there you have it. These S tier heroes may not be the absolute kings of the game, but they're definitely top tier and more than capable of making your enemies regret facing them. Whether you need solid AoE damage, strategic control, or debuff domination, this list has got you covered. Now go out there and start wrecking the battlefield with these amazing units. The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Sanguina, Cronus, Satoria, and Sepia. Alright, so let's dive into some of the most ridiculously powerful heroes in Enigma of Sepia. I'm talking about those game-breaking, jaw-dropping units that can carry your team to victory without even breaking a sweat. These heroes are at the top of the pyramid, the ones who define what it means to be overpowered. If you're looking to turn the tide of battle in your favor, these are the characters you'll want on your side. Let's just start with Sanguina. This one's an absolute beast. If there's a true damage dealer in this game that leaves everyone in the dust, it's her. The best part, she doesn't just deal insane damage, she can instantly obliterate enemies with her high chances of landing a kill. And the cherry on top? Every time she takes down an enemy, she automatically activates Counterspell. That means if you're up against someone who tries to play dirty with buffs or debuffs, Sanguina's got it covered. Now, we've got Cronus in the mix. He's the ultimate cursor and buffer, a true support mastermind. But wait, there's more. If you're lucky enough to have Carmilla on your team, Cronus gains free Blood Rage. Yep, free rage, which means more power to fuel his already strong abilities. He can delay enemy attacks, keeping your team one step ahead. And let's not forget about his ability to apply time stop to every enemy, freezing them in their tracks. Talk about controlling the flow of battle, right? Moving on, we have Satoria. And let me tell you, this hero is all about AoE dominance. Best AoE damage dealer? Oh yeah. Satoria has that title locked down, but here's the kicker. Not only does she dish out the pain in the form of AoE damage, but she also applies counterspell buffs to all allies under certain conditions. This means not only can she nuke the enemies, but she's also protecting your squad from nasty magic spells. And just like Sanguina, time stop is her thing too, freezing enemies all around the battlefield. She's a massive threat you don't want to mess with. Let's talk about Sepia now, because this hero is a bit of an enigma in the best way possible. Known as the best control unit in the game, Sepia doesn't just lock down enemies, she deals true damage too. It's like she's a control unit and damage dealer all rolled into one. And the real magic happens when she stacks up self-healing. Yep, multiple stacks. That means she's not only hard to take down, but she can also regenerate health while controlling the battlefield. Combine that with a chance to instantly kill enemies, and you've got yourself a hero who's nearly impossible to beat. Each of these heroes brings something incredibly unique to the table. Whether it's the insane damage from Sanguina, the control and buffs from Cronus, or the AoE madness of Satoria, every single one of them can lead your team to victory. And let's not forget about Sepia, who holds the crown as the best at controlling and eliminating threats. Honestly, these heroes are the stuff of legends in Enigma of Sepia. If you want to absolutely crush your enemies, stack up on these S+ tier units. They'll carry you through every battle, whether it's a 1v1 showdown or a team clash. They're the real deal, and you'll see that as soon as you take them into your party. But here's the thing, while these heroes are top tier, it's not just about having them on your team, it's about knowing when and how to unleash their full potential. Use their abilities wisely and you'll be unstoppable. Just imagine having Cronus delay all the enemy attacks while Sanguina mows them down one by one, or having Satoria freeze everyone while Sepia heals and controls the chaos. It's a dream team, so if you haven't already, it's time to get these heroes on your roster. They're worth every bit of investment, and once you start seeing their power in action, you'll wonder how you ever played without them. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.